welcome to today's announcement. Okay, we're gonna have to move because our light went out. Bye.
So,
as we were saying, welcome to today's announcements. Claudia, what's our first announcement?
Our first announcement is that we have social media, of course. We have Instagram and we have YouTube. Our Instagram is Samurai Students CA and our YouTube is Samurai Students CA. Make sure you subscribe, put the bell on, make sure you watch Wednesday night.
Oh, and if you're watching us in person on Sundays, hello and welcome to Sunday morning. We are so glad that you are here. We have some cool stuff happening on Sundays, but we also have cool stuff happening on Wednesdays. Both Sundays and Wednesdays, we have small groups. Wednesdays, it's after service around 7 o'clock. And it is a global small group for all campuses to join. So if you're watching tonight, Wednesday night, make sure that you join us. And Sundays, we also have small group it's pretty much during the service. So what we do is
my finger got in the way.
What we do is we usually play some games. We do Impossible Shot. So make sure that you guys are bringing some friends. So you do Impossible Shot. You get a chance to win $25 gift card if you make it into the middle. Into the middle. So we do Impossible Shot. We have a message, a good message, and then we have small groups afterwards, which is super fun, and we get to dig into God's word, and that is the best part.
You get to make friends.
You get to make friends, homies for life. Homies for life. So make sure that you guys are joining us. Sunday starts at 11 and Wednesday starts at 6:15 on YouTube or Instagram. I think our final announcement for today is we have Among Us. We have another Among Us event. We all know, Among Us is super fun, and some of us haven't really played it in a while.
Oh, I know. Hold the camera, I'm getting tired. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
My arms got tired.
Someone needs to work out. Anyways, we have an Among Us event happening again Friday, May 21st. When?
May 21st.
Which is a Friday. At 7 p.m. The link is bit.ly/SS Among Us 2. Pretty sure we'll put it here or we'll let you know in the chat or something. But we have that coming up Friday, May 21st at 7 p.m. Make sure you invite your friends and, get ready to be dominated by myself because I may be the imposter and might kill you. Anyways, thank you for watching today's announcements. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the service and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Pastor John here. Want to welcome everybody from all the different sites, whether you're in Ontario, Victorville, Banning, or even Rialto. We're so excited you chose to join us today. And I want to ask you a quick question. Have you ever forgot something that you wish you didn't forget? Like, has that ever happened to you in your life? I remember being in middle school, and I went to hang out with a friend who just lived across the street from us. His name was Mike Brown, and me and Mike used to hang out when I was in middle school. And I had one rule in my family that you had to be home when the street lights came on. And if you weren't going to be home by then you had to let mom know. Well, that was the detail that I forgot. I went to hang out with Mike. We got caught up and lost in our time together and hanging out in his house. And I didn't tell my mom, and the streetlights came on. And this was in the summer when it didn't get dark until real late. So it was like 8:30 by the time it got dark. So I was somebody who, when I was in middle school, I had to go to bed at 9 o'clock. I don't know if you can imagine that, but I had a curfew of 9 o'clock. It's just a fun fact. I also had a curfew at 9 o'clock when I was a senior in high school. So seniors, high schoolers, middle schoolers, think about that. I had to go to bed at 9 o'clock from the time I was in elementary school all the way till I was a senior in high school. Anyway, point being, here was summer. Wasn't thinking about anything. There was no school. We were just hanging out. And all of a sudden, it's 9 o'clock, 9:30, it's 10 o'clock. And I haven't told my mom where I'm at. She doesn't know. Well, my mom happened to work for a police department in Linwood. We were living in Lakewood at the time, which is a city near Long Beach. Anyway, my mom worked for this police department nearby, and so she called all of her police friends. She wasn't a police officer, she was a dispatcher for them, but they all knew her. She's the one who would send them out on calls. And basically, it was like 30 or 25, 30 police cars were all around our house, sirens blaring, everything going crazy. My friend Mike and I hear it in my house, or his house, and we run out to see what's going on because we're like, wow, something crazy is going on in our neighborhood. And all of a sudden, these cops are yelling at us, get over here, get over here. And I'm freaked out. And there's my mom standing in the yard, and she's crying because she thought I'd been abducted. She thought I ran away. She thought something really dangerous had happened. And all that really happened was I forgot to tell her where I was. I was just across the street. Turned out that even though she knew I hung out with Mike, she looked at his house and their porch light was out because it was so late. His parents went to bed, turned the porch light out. So she figured there's no way that I was over there. And here I was with 25 cop cars and like 30 or 40 cops all looking for me. It was kind of a crazy thing, right? Now, I don't know if you've ever forgotten something. I don't know if you've ever had a situation, maybe this week, maybe sometime recently, where you forgot a detail or you know, something jumped out of your brain and then some crazy situation happened as a result. But I want to just make you think through these questions. If you're, you know, as you think through this, the question would be, you know, have you ever forgotten something important? Or maybe is there something that has happened in your life, maybe recently, that you never want to forget? You know, some memories, it's like, man, I never want to forget. It was so cool when I went to summer camp. It was so cool when I did this or that. And you never want to forget that thing. Or maybe there's something in your life that you feel is the most important memory that you'll ever have. So you always want to hold on to it because it's the most important thing. Even in our lives, oftentimes we have learned as kids to remember things through songs. I don't know if you remember the ABC song, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or the Michael Jackson version, which is much cooler. But anyway, the point is that you may have learned the ABC song. You may have learned how to sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Maybe you would have learned how to even sing not just the ABC song, but some other song that you've learned as a result. And it was a kind of a memory trick, right, for you to be able to remember everything. The funny thing is, it's not that different than in the Bible. Last week, we started this series on Psalms, and Psalms are really songs that were written back in ancient times for the people of Israel to remember all the great things that God had done. Sometimes even to remember anger that they had, to remember all kinds of different things. And last week, we started this series. This week, we're going to continue it because sometimes songs can help us remember the stuff that's important. It can tell our story. Sometimes songs can be those stories in and of themselves that help us remember. And so as we get ready for this, I want you to kind of prepare your mind to think about how songs affect our stories, how songs become our stories, and how songs affect our memory, and what it is that we can celebrate, and that what we can pass on even to other generations, and what it is that we can do to be able to tell other people about the story of God. And in order to do that, I'm going to pass it on to one of our teaching team. And so take it away, teaching team.
So last week we started this brand new series, and we're exploring a book of the Bible called the Book of Psalms. Now, this book is a collection of songs, rhymes, and rhythms that are written by and for the nation of Israel. And you know, John talked about how we use songs to remember important things. The writers of the Book of Psalms did exactly that too. They wrote down things that God had done for them so that when times were tough, it would be easy to be able to look back and remember what God had done. Now, maybe you're familiar with some of these things that have happened in the Bible. Imagine if these things that happened in the Bible, there was a news camera guy there, and this is what he said. Israel on the run. After years of enslavement, late last night, the Israelites fled the nation of Egypt under the protection of their God. This just in, cloudy with a chance of quail. Eyewitness accounts say food is falling from the skies and flocks of birds of mysterious bread-like substance have appeared in the desert just in time to save the Israelites from starvation. Yet another confrontation with the enemy's armies. Israel remains undefeated in battle due to mysterious and miraculous circumstances. So if you've been around church at all, maybe you recognize some of those stories. And when you think about those stories, some of the details might be familiar to you, but some are probably pretty fuzzy. So whether you heard of them or not, these are stories that actually happened in the nation of Israel. So imagine you witnessed an incredible miracle, like something that just you can't explain other than it's a miracle by God. How would you share that important story with someone? Like, what tools of communication would you use? Like, would you tweet it? Would you put it on Instagram? what would you do? Maybe you're texting all your friends to tell them. Now, imagine if you were not able to write anything, or imagine if no one around you knew how to read, or imagine this. Imagine if there were no phones and no internet and no radio or even electricity. Without those things, it's got to be super hard to spread the word about something important like that, right? Or telling stories to other people. You might even be able to tell, let's say you told 100 people about this incredible miracle that you witnessed. Then what? Maybe they would tell some other people, but they'd probably forget some of the important details and remember some, like it's been shown that people remember things wrong. But what happens like after some time? Let's say 10 years go by. Are those people going to remember the stories? What about in 100 years? How does that story continue to get passed on to other people in history? See, in a time and a place where there were very few ways to communicate other than talking face to face, the Israelites had to get creative. And they wanted to make sure that they got the stories of God and the miracles that he did passed on so that it would be told and retold from generation to generation. Sometimes they would stack rocks. It was called building an altar. They would, when something important happened, they would put a bunch of rocks and make this pile so that their kids one day would go, why is that pile of rocks there? And they'd be able to go, well, this is what God did in that moment right in this place. Sometimes they would rename locations or even people after something God did when he did something miraculous. Sometimes they would establish these brand new traditions or holidays, feasts that they would have, so they would remember to worship God and praise him and thank him for what he did because of what he did in that moment. So they'd have these feasts that would do every year. And of course, they wrote songs to help them to remember the stories. They would sing these songs during their dinners, their holidays, their feasts, their worship services. And there's a section in the book of Psalms, Psalms 120 to 134. They're all relatively short. It's believed that the Israelites used these songs to remember what God had done, to worship God in the temple, or when they were having some sort of feast that was commemorating what God had done. And I want to read to you a couple of them, Psalm 120 and 130. Okay, and there's some patterns that you'll notice in here. People, them trusting God, something that's gone wrong, and maybe there's enemies attacking, God rescuing them, God hearing their prayers, God doing something amazing. Listen to this, Psalm 121. I look up to the mountains. Does my help come from there? My help comes from the Lord who made the heaven and earth. He will not let you stumble. The one who watches over you will not slumber. The Lord himself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon at night. The Lord keeps you from all harm and watches over your life. The Lord keeps watch over you as you come and go, both now and forever. All right, so I'm going to flip over to Psalm 130. From the depths of despair, O Lord, I call for your help. Hear my cry, O Lord. Pay attention to my prayer. Lord, if you kept a record of our sins, who, O Lord, could ever survive? But you offer forgiveness that we might learn to fear you. I'm counting on you, Lord. Yes, I'm counting on him. I've put on the Lord. I have put my hope in his word. I long for the Lord more than centuries long for the dawn. Yes, more than centuries long for the dawn. O Israel, hope in the Lord. For the Lord with the Lord there is unfailing love. His redemption overflows. He himself will redeem Israel from every kind of sin. Now, this is in English, so you don't see rhyme, but you can see the patterns that are there, and these would be put to song, and they would sing these things, talking about being in trouble, God, and we know that you hear us, and we're trusting you, we're putting our faith in you, and then understanding that God is worth praise, and they'll praise him. There's a pattern as you look at those songs, those psalms there. Now, Jesus, when he was with his disciples, he would do the same things that the people of God have been doing for years when they would have, whether it was being in a temple and worship service, or they would be doing a feast or a festival near Jesus' death. He's sitting with his disciples, and they were celebrating the Israelite festival of Passover. And as part of that celebration, Jesus would have shared a meal and sung a song with his disciples. So here Jesus is in, you can read this in Matthew 26 to 30. Jesus breaks bread and he says, "This is my body that's broken for you." And then he pours the wine for them and he says, "This is my blood that's been spilled for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Take this." And he was giving some objects for them to remember Jesus when he left the earth. And in that time, he likely sang a song like Psalm 116 that goes like this. This is how it goes. "I love the Lord because he hears my voice and my prayer for mercy. Because he bends down to listen, I will pray as long as I have breath. Death wrapped its ropes around me. The terrors of the grave overtook me. I saw only trouble and sorrow. Then I called on the name of the Lord. Please, Lord, save me. How kind the Lord is. How good he is. So merciful, this God of ours. The Lord protects those of childlike faith. I was facing death, and he saved me." You see, Jesus would have sung something like that with his disciples. So we need to understand that the singing of these songs was helping them to remember that this is a God who saves and protects and heals. And we need to do the same kind of thing when we're in relationship with God. We need to sing out to God. These songs are written. We worship to remember what God has done. Maybe for you, maybe you want to write a song. I don't know. Maybe you feel like, oh, there's no way I'm not that creative enough. But there are plenty of worship songs that are written for us to remember what God has done. Sometimes they're very detailed. Sometimes they're more generic. But the songs will help us to remember the things that God has done. Just like John said, we sang the ABCs to remember the ABCs. There's a song about remembering the books of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, Deuteronomy, and it goes on and so forth, all through all of the books of the Bible. They help us to remember. And these songs, we worship to remember what God has done. So let's continue to worship God through reading of his word, through singing about him and to him. But before we go any further, we're going to pause here because it is game time. All right, it is game time, and you hear that music. That's right. Yesterday was May 4th, which means today, and today being Cinco de Mayo, right? May 4th, when Margaret Thatcher was voted in as prime minister, there was a huge billboard that was put out by an ad agency that said, basically congratulating her and saying, "May the 4th be with you, Maggie." That's where it started. Interesting little factoid, little trivia for you there. And now every year there's big stuff that happens about Star Wars on May the 4th. And as a result, like yesterday, there was a whole bunch of stuff that was put out by Disney saying, here's all the things that are happening. Anyhow, so we thought it'd be fun to do a game based on Star Wars Far, Far Away trivia. Round one, how well do you know your Star Wars trivia? What is the weapon of choice for Jedi Knights? Do you know the answer? What is the weapon of choice for Jedi Knights? Is it a blaster, lightsaber, bowcaster, or electro whip? Put the answer in the chat. You know the answer. Okay, we're starting off with an easy one. This is almost a gimme, right? Put your answer in the chat. Blaster, lightsaber, bowcaster, or electric whip. The answer, my friends, 3, 2, 1 is lightsaber. Nice job. Congratulations. Remember, you get 1,000 points for each one you get right, so keep track of your own points. Hopefully, you get 1,000 points there. Round two. What unit of distance is used to measure the Kessel Run? What unit of distance is used to measure the Kessel Run? Is it plank, yoctometer, Finoka, or parsec? These are all actual Star Wars units of measures. Which one do you think it is? Put your answer in the chat. Plank, yoctometer, Finoka, or parsec? All right, the answer we're looking for is parsecs. If you said parsec, very good. Congratulations, you got another 1,000 points. Round three. What does AT-AT stand for? What does AT-AT stand for? Is it Alternate Territory Advanced Transit, All-Terrain Armored Transport, altered top android track, or Admiral Topen attack trajectory. What does AT-AT stand for? Put in the chat what you think the answer is. I'll give you 3, 2, 1. The answer, my friends, is all-terrain android transport. If you said that, you got 1,000 points. Very good. All right, round 4. What is the name of the planet where Chewbacca and all Wookiees come from? Is it Tatooine, Naboo, Endor, or Kashyyyk? Where do the Wookiees come from? Not good one. A little better. The answers in the chat. 3, 2, 1. The answer is Kashyyyk. Very good. Nice job. 1,000 points if you got that one right. All right, round 5. What kind of armor does Boba Fett wear? What kind of armor does Boba Fett wear? Does he wear Mandalorian, Rancor, Zillo, or Onderon? These are all types of armor from Star Wars. So I'm not just throwing in made-up words in there. Does Boba Fett wear Mandalorian, Rancor, Zillo, or Onderon armor? Which one is it? 3, 2, 1. It is Mandalorian. Mando wears that. All right. Round 6. What color lightsaber only belongs to one Jedi? Which might be debatable if you really look into it, but out of these, is it purple, yellow, blue, or green? Purple, yellow, blue, or green? I can tell you that blue is the most standard color for a Jedi lightsaber. Obi-Wan Kenobi used it. Anakin Skywalker used it. Green is a secondary Jedi blade. Equal significance to blue, used by Luke Skywalker, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Yoda. Yellow, my friends, is a double-bladed yellow sabers used exclusively by Jedi Temple guards, which means the answer is purple. Purple, rare lightsaber. And it's best known use by Mace Windu. All right, round 7. What planet does Rey grow up on? What planet does Rey grow up on? Is it Jakku, Dagobah, Wabani, or Cantonica? What planet does Rey grow up on? Dagobah, at first glance, or Dagobah, swampy, right? Looks like it's inhospitable, but this was where Yoda lived, and this is where Luke received his majority of his training. Wabani. I'm a little embarrassed right now. That was on Rogue One, and Cantonica is on Last Jedi, which, my friends, means the answer is Jakku. If you put Jakku, you got the answer correct. That's 1,000 points. All right, round 8. Jar Jar Binks is what type of creature? Rancor, Blurg, Jawa, or Gungan? What type of creature is Jar Jar Binks? Misa Jar Jar Binksa, Husa Yusa. What do you think the answer is? Put it in the chat. Rancor, he eats people when Jabba Hutt lets him. Blurgs, that's what Mando rides, the Mandalorian. But Jar Jar Binks is a Gungan. All right, 1,000 points if you got that right. Round number 9. Who is Darth Tyrannus also known as? Who is Darth Tyrannus also known as? Is he known as Count Dooku, Kylo Ren, Sheev Palpatine, or Darth Maul? Count Dooku, Kylo Ren, Sheev Palpatine, or Darth Maul? Put your answer in there. Palpatine. It is I, Sheev Palpatine, also known as Darth Sidious. But the answer, my friends, is Count Dooku. Count Dooku. All right, round 10. We got 2 more to go. You get 1,000 points for each of these. All right. Who was Count Dooku's Padawan before leaving the Jedi Order? Who was Count Dooku's Padawan before leaving the Jedi Order? Was it Mace Windu? Was it Rey? Was it Qui-Gon Jinn? Or Poe? Who was it? Do you have an answer? Put an answer quickly into the chat. Hopefully you get it right. Remember, you're keeping track of your own points. 1,000 points for everyone right. 3, 2, 1. The answer is Qui-Gon Jinn, my friends. Qui-Gon Jinn. All right, last round. I'm going to give you 2,000 points for this final round. 2,000 points. You get to add it. Hope you're keeping track of all your points. What is the name of the droid who is the key to unlocking Rey's past? What is the name of the droid? Is it C-3PO, BB-8, D-O, or R2-D2? Worth 2,000 points, my friends. What is the answer? What is the answer? He appeared in the 2019 film Star Wars Episode 9 Rise of the Skywalker, the final installment of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. And he was voiced by the director J.J. Abrams. The answer is D.O. D.O. Well, thank you so much for playing Far, Far Away Trivia. We really appreciate you jumping in tonight. And we are going to jump back into the rest of the message. I'm going to kick it over to my friend, Eric Wade.
Hey, thanks Eric with the K. Hey guys, so we've talked a lot about remembering today. And that's because remembering it is so important to our lives. It's not only good for building our faith, but it's also really good for our brain. In fact, scientists who study the human brain have observed something called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to form and recognize synaptic connections, especially in response to learning or experiencing following an injury. So what they've learned from brain scans, from people who spend time each and every day remembering what God has done for them through prayer and worship, actually increases the neuroplasticity of their brains. So the more time you spend focused in prayer and worship, the stronger the neutral connections in your brain become. And the easier it becomes for you to make prayer and worship a habit. And the easier it is for you to remember what God has done for you, and the more real and personal your faith becomes. So in other words, even if you're not feeling full of faith, worship anyway. Worship and pray anyway, because remembering what God has done and responding in worship can build your faith. Let me ask you guys a question. Does anybody here journal or maybe write in a diary, whether it be in a physical book or whether it be through a journaling app? It's important to do so because just like the psalmist wrote songs to remember God's stories, we write in our journals and our diaries to remember special moments in our lives. And the reason why we do that is because journals help us to remember what happened, what we thought about what happened, and how we felt about what happened. Those are all extremely important because over time, as our memory fades, journals can be a powerful reminder of moments and feelings we may have otherwise forgotten or misremembered. Do you think journaling might help you remember what God has done for you? If so, let's journal. It doesn't need to include handwriting in a physical book. Journaling can take place and be done through a journaling app or maybe through a collection of photos or videos that you take. Some people even make some of their journaling public and share stories in real time. It doesn't matter how you do it. The important thing is that we do it so that we can remember how God has been faithful in and through our lives. Let me ask you guys another question. What do you think would happen if you made an effort to journal regularly to help you remember what God has done for you throughout your life? I want to challenge you guys this week. This week, I want you to write your own psalm that is specific to your life using the pattern that we identified here in Psalms 120 verses 134. Start by identifying a struggle or challenge that you and your community faced. Think about how you called out to God and how God responded during that time. Sometimes we can see how God was at work more easily when we look back at what happened in the past. When we trust God, God helps us. Identify how trusting in God helped in that circumstance and what you've learned about by trusting God. Think about when we trust God, God helps us. Think about that. I'm going to say it again. Think about when we trust God, God helps us based on your specific circumstances from the first step. Now write a verse about each of these steps. That's your psalm. God, you helped me through this, and your word says right here that you will. God, you saw me through this, and in this verse, you said that you would. Write about it, and that's going to become your song, your story of remembrance. And you may even want to share it with others, not to brag on yourself, but to brag on God and how He can encourage them in the same way. Your life, your experience with God could be an encouragement to others, and that could be their platform into starting or strengthening their relationship with the Lord. Guys, there's so many ways to remember and to worship God, and journaling is just one of them, and music is another way. Maybe you're artistic and you write music, write a song about it. Because that's what the book of Psalms are. The songs is a book of Psalms, remembering what God did for the people of Israel, and the songs we write today do the same thing for us. So let's remember that. Let's remember what God has done through us, through the writing of our thoughts, through the writing of our circumstances, through the writing of the experiences that we've had, and through maybe even writing through songs, or if nothing else, singing songs of praise and worship and adoration and thanksgiving to God for all that he's done in our lives. Because God has done amazing things for us as individuals and for our communities and for our churches corporately and for humanity as a whole. And we can remember those amazing things through worship. So let's not let our worship end right here, right now. Let's continue worshiping throughout this week as we worship to remember what God has done for us. So right now, I pray that this was a blessing to you. I pray that you apply it. I'm going to kick it back to the host, and we will see you guys soon.
All right, well, it is just about time for small group. And here's how we're doing small group. We recognize that you're probably on here for one of two reasons. One, you're not ready to be back in person, and that's totally okay. We totally recognize that's why we have Wednesday night available to you. Or two, you are serving this weekend, or there's actually a third reason. You might be serving this weekend because I know some of you are serving kids ministry or other places once or twice a month. And so you still want to have your service time, and here's our small group. Or three, you're going to be out of town this weekend, so you want to make sure that you are you're getting your student service. And we're really thrilled that you're doing that. So we have a small group for you right after this. As soon as we're done, you click this. I'm going to put on the screen here the link there, and we need you to open up a browser and put this link in there. It's all lowercase, bit.ly/SS small group. So the SS is for Sunrise Students Small Group. bit.ly/SS small group. So there's 3 S's there. That's right. Don't mess that up. Don't only put 2, 3 S's. Put that into your browser. That'll get you into the small group right now, right when I'm done here. And this is a place for you to connect and belong. You don't want to miss out on this. You do not want to miss out on a chance to just connect. We've got some great leaders who are ready to connect with you, to laugh with you, to talk about what we've been talking about tonight, and look at soundtracks and anthems in your own life as we unpack kind of what God is saying to us in this. So jump into that small group. Have a great time. Otherwise, we'll catch you at the Among Us event next Friday, as well as next Wednesday, of course. All right, we will see you later. See ya.